Back with Discourse, music video launch. Let's do it.
This is a crazy one. Hi there, friends, fans, and foes of Dad Saves America. John Popola here. And this Friday, I've got a kind of special episode for you because this is a big week for us here at Emergent Order Foundation, which is the organization under which Dad Saves America exists. And we have a new project that just launched this week. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what it is, how you as parents and teachers can use it, and give you a little preview. So I'm going to try to keep it short and encourage you to go check it out. This is the Battle of the Borders, our new rap battle about immigration policy. First up is the closed borders side of the argument, led by economist George Borjas.
We are one nation, united, free. To keep it that way, we need sovereignty. A border regulated with integrity, protected by folks we've elected. See, let's listen to our people's frustration and take back control of immigration.
Our porous borders have brought an invasion, tragedy, crisis, and exploitation.
I don't fault those who come to build wealth. Look at me, an immigrant myself. We came to this country poorer than poor, but did it the right way through the front door.
This is the primary role of the state, to defend the rights we each hold innate.
Upholding the law, protecting our fate. Do it to keep our America great.
So that is the opening verse from the closed, restricted borders side of the argument. George Borjas, whose work has focused on the impact of illegal immigration and low-skilled legal immigration on the wages of working-class Americans. And he is a Harvard economist. He's well recognized as being the leader in this field from an argument perspective. With a little punch-in from the more political voice, Stephen Miller up in the announcer booth, delivering a little more cutting an argument. And now let's hear the other side.
What's the fastest way to enrich a nation? With freedom, wealth, and job creation. Too slow, too much hesitation. There's a one-word answer, that's immigration. When new folks come, they work and they earn, and we get the goods that they make in return.
Plus culture, growth, new ideas and firms. It's a slam dunk trade if you check the terms.
The place of your birth's like a lottery, right?
The luck of the draw leads to poverty, blight.
Cross over a border and wages take flight.
By a factor of 5 or 10 overnight.
Here's the truth, your distortion exposed. The border's now 95% closed. We're a nation of immigrants. Don't be a coward, man. Get on board for the open borders power slam.
Battle of the borders, the migrants ball. Immigration gladiators ready to brawl. Who's taking the belt? Who's taking the fall?
Open the borders, don't build a wall.
Battle of the borders, outcome unknown. Debating luchadors in the Thunderdome. Who's run out of gas? Who's still in the zone?
Let them come in, don't send them all home.
So some of you might be thinking, what is wrong with you? Why did you do this? Who was involved in the making of this insane thing? And what are you trying to accomplish here? Well, a little backstory is in order. First of all, this is just a sample. It is a long video that goes into a lot of depth about the issue from both sides, and it is as evenly portrayed throughout the video and song as you just saw. And we tortured ourselves to do that. And that is kind of the point. You know, if you've been a viewer here at Dad Saves America, that I am not unbiased. I don't claim to be unbiased. I don't claim to be neutral. I have a worldview. I try to put it forward, especially in these videos here on Friday. But one of the things that I am very passionate about is discourse, free expression, and the battle of ideas. I am a nerd for this. I love it. I have been arguing since I was a little kid with my Uncle Bill in high school and in college. And then I kind of had to keep my mouth shut about my politics when I started working at MTV back in the early 2000s. And then eventually, in the aftermath of the financial crisis, I decided that I needed to start speaking out again about the issues I cared about. And the way I did it was a rap battle. I was grappling with the government's response to the financial crisis in 2008. And as part of that, I came to believe that the free market answer was the right one, and that the sort of big government Keynesian deficit spending stimulus programs like President Barack Obama at the time had passed, which now look puny from hindsight in 2024, that they were a bad idea, that they wouldn't work, and in fact they didn't work, and that only one side of the argument was being heard. That was my concern. And of course, in our media and discourse and news media, it was the left of center argument. It was the pro-big government argument. And so rather than simply produce a pro-capitalism free market video, myself and Russ Roberts, an economist from George Mason University, who's been on the show several times as a guest, came up with something a little different. We made a rap video called Fear the Boom and Bust that actually pitted Hayek versus Keynes in a battle of ideas that was fair to both people, that steel-manned both sides of the argument. And the thinking was, well, that's what you're supposed to do. That is how you compete for what is true. It's great to be persuasive, right? You want to hone your rhetoric. But if your argument can't compete with the other side, you might be wrong. And that's become the default position I tend to occupy whenever I see someone who's trying to shut down debate or trying to keep people from hearing an argument. My default position is they're probably on the wrong side. Fast forward to today, this rap video, Fear the Boom and Bust, and its sequel, Fight of the Century, and then a later sequel, Mises versus Marx, comprised a kind of trilogy of economics rap battles that have been viewed tens of millions of times, but more importantly, they've been used by students and teachers for a decade all around the world, and especially here in the States. I have been shocked and surprised by the impact these videos have had. Many of you may have seen them in class or been shown them in the aftermath of the financial crisis. In fact, I have something that I keep with me in my backpack as a memento. Maybe one of my favorite examples of the impact that these videos have had and of the kind of discourse that I think we all deserve is this. This is a book report from a 9-year-old who watched a macroeconomics rap battle with textbook grade economics and summarized it for class. When I got this in my email inbox years and years ago, it was part of the reason why I quit my job at Spike TV to start this organization and why I've dreamed of doing more videos like this. And so this video, Battle of the Borders, is the return to form. And we've launched it at the YouTube channel Radical Discourse, freshly rebranded, because that is what we need these days. We need radical discourse. We need a battle of ideas that gets to the root of the things that we're struggling with. We need to do battle even with the people who say that discourse is white supremacy or is, the path to fascism, like people like Herbert Marcuse have argued. That battle will take place too over time. So that's the point. That is what this project, Radical Discourse, is all about. It is about laying out the arguments that matter to us in a way that's fun and also deep and very, very strenuously researched and can stand the test of time. And that is kind of the part of the answer for the question that you might be wondering, which is, why did you do this? Why did you produce this crazy thing? Music is super powerful. And I'm a filmmaker. So our team here, Jesse, the producer, and Danielle, the director, and Brian, the creative director, and Glenn, the writer of the lyrics, we all came together to make this thing. And we've tortured ourselves on how to make it great, how to make it fair, how to make it educational, how to make it something that you as a parent can actually watch with your kids. One of the things about this issue, for me personally, is that I have tended towards open borders, actually. That has been my sort of libertarian inclination. The logic of it, I think the arguments that get made for it, even though it is a fringe position, I think are interesting. And yet that is an extreme minority worldview to take. And so what is interesting about that, and I hope instructive, is that in working through this video, I actually found myself getting excited to beef up and make sure that the case for restricted immigration was as strong as it possibly could be. To the point where I actually wrote the opening lyrics for George Borjas in the rap video. The point is, we have been told a lie. It's a multi-layered lie, actually. The first lie is that objectivity is possible, or that you can be unbiased. I don't think that's a thing. I'm not some postmodernist who doesn't believe in truth, but I don't believe that we can escape the fact that we have an inclination, we have a worldview, we have opinions. They shape the way we understand the world. The second lie is that we can't understand other points of view, that empathy is impossible. This is the identity woke view of the world, that in order to understand something, you have to be the thing. I can't understand the plight of someone who didn't live the life I've lived, or that isn't my race or color or creed or gender. Also false. I actually think one of the things that's so magical about human beings is that we are actually capable of that kind of complexity. It's hard, but it's possible. And that is what these videos are all about. They're about presenting the strongest versions of ideas, even though it's impossible to escape your worldview, even though the people working on it, and actually in this case, had a very wide range of views on this issue, all from one side to the other and then shifting in between. In fact, for me personally, working on this has moved me from a very sort of rigid sort of dogma to being not so sure what the right answer is. I mean, that's a fact. It is, when you grapple with ideas, if you're open-minded, they can change the way you think. And I think that this is a very complex topic. It's a really important topic. Now, just to give you a sense of the kind of impact I hope this video has, I actually played it for a friend of mine who happens to be an undocumented immigrant from Mexico here in the US, which could be awkward. And what was really kind of interesting to see was this person watched it and said, wow, I've actually not heard the arguments in favor of restricting immigration put this way before, in this way. They are interesting and compelling, and I understand. This is someone who personally could be deported and yet had the ability to watch the video, hear the arguments being made against their own personal self-interest, and say, I understand. And that is the point. That is what we're trying to do with these videos over at Radical Discourse here on YouTube and at radicaldiscourse.com. It is a new project and also not new. It's also the continuation of the projects that began all of this work for me. So that's the why, to fill the gap, to step into the breach where our discourse in this country has collapsed and where civility has gone to die, to model it, to say it is possible. I want to give you a little window into the how, because this is a crazy one. We pulled out all the stops. I raised a bunch of money from a bunch of different people to make this thing happen. It was a philanthropic endeavor. So that's how it came about financially. We are a nonprofit organization, and so that's what we do. And that's actually what underpinned the funding of the prior rap videos as well. These are educational content. I think of it as Schoolhouse Rock for the 21st century. But the way we did it's pretty cool. So first of all, we didn't shoot outside. We shot in studios in Atlanta, Georgia, the Trillet Studios, where a lot of Marvel movies get made, on a volume wall. This is a giant TV, basically, that projects the background, and it tracks the background with the camera as it moves. Here's a little window into behind the scenes. As the camera moves around, the background adjusts to really make it feel real. So why do we do it that way? Well, trying to shoot this outside near the actual border wall may have been illegal and would have been punishingly difficult to pull off. The sun moving through the sky would have meant that we wouldn't have as much time to film. The heat would have meant everyone involved would have been completely drenched, because I live here in Texas, and in August in Texas, it's 100 degrees. And so it would have been physically impossible to do it any other way. We brought together this incredible crew. This is the other thing that I think is worth knowing. You know, I came out of traditional entertainment. The entertainment industry is overwhelmingly left of center. That's just a fact. And yet, because we were actually tackling this issue with intellectual honesty and a representation of the full argument, we had a really politically diverse group of people. We had people working on big stuff. We had people working on Marvel movies the next week. So it is possible to bring people together around discourse, around radical discourse, about the hardest issues in our politics. And that's the other lesson here, even in the how, even as we, pulled together various people to work on this thing, we were able to come together in common cause to try to bring debate to life, especially in classrooms and for our kids. So anyway, without further ado, I encourage you, I ask you to check it out. We'll put a box up here where you can click, and there's going to be a lot more of these coming in the months and years ahead. This is not a one-off. We've actually got climate change, overpopulation. We're exploring a whole range of other subjects. What's the true founding of the United States, 1619 or 1776? We're going after the hard topics. We're not pulling any punches. We want to model what it looks like to hear both sides and to understand them well enough to make their arguments better than sometimes they even make them themselves. Go check it out. Make it your Friday viewing coming up next, and have a great weekend.